Hello and good day everyone. It is a pleasure to be here. This paper is in collaboration with lecturer at UiT and Puncak Alam, Sir Ahmad Fahim Zulkifli. Without him, this would really have not been possible. So, I am Nurhanis binti Shom. I am student at Faculty of Education, UiT and Puncak Alam, and majoring in Physical Health and Education. And today, I would like to present about engagement and satisfaction towards blended learning during online distance learning among physical health education students. The COVID-19 pandemic has brought spectrum aftermath on commercial transactions run electronically on the internet, technology, official journeys, economy, and education. The pandemic itself has taken a toll on many people, including saved the life of many. My question here is, what can we do if the pandemic continues? An overview of the study, what can be in my introduction here, as a means of restraining COVID-19 from happening, every country took on a quarantine plan of action, and Malaysia has also embraced a similar measure. Each of the educators had to conduct classes on an online basis for the first time. Thus, the focal goal of the study was to identify students' engagement and satisfaction towards blended learning during online distance learning among physical health and education students during COVID-19 pandemic. Okay, here is my statement of problem. What we want to solve. Let me tell you. The affected higher learning institutes and universities, both public and private, require the best strategies to ensure teaching and coaching could have proceeded uninterruptedly. Invariably, when implementing online learning, researchers believe that studies need to be carried out based on students' experiences. The main aim of the study was to identify students' perception of blended learning during COVID-19 pandemic. Apart from that, to raise classroom efficacy in which lecturers want to improve students' participation and interaction. So, does blended learning support and improve physical and health education students' teaching and learning? That's the question. Okay, now we are going to talk about objective. Basically, what we want to achieve in the study was to explore physical and health education students' perception of blended learning during online distance learning. Secondly, to find out the frequency of interaction between lecturer and physical and education students through blended learning during online distance learning. Lastly, to evaluate the differences of students' level of satisfaction towards Google Classroom between male and female students of physical and health education during online distance. Moving on to the next slide, few limitations that researchers encountered during this research was the respondents may be reluctant to be interviewed because they were occupied with attending online classes or doing their assignments. And they also have the tendency to disclose or delegate their personal matters. To overcome this kind of situation, researchers highlighted on the consent agreement that their responses will be kept private and confidential, of course. Then we also figure out significance of the study. This study could be significant to this group, which are three groups, which are students' learning experience, teachers teaching, and administrators. In terms of students, this method of blended learning could improve their academic competence. While teachers, they are able to plan content, construct lesson, and assign teaching and learning tasks. Regarding the administrator, I think they will improve their technology-based problem. Okay, now we are going to look on methodology. The research design that applied for this research is mixed method design that seeks to use both quantitative and qualitative in a single study. The participants from the selected study are students currently pursuing bachelor's degree in physical and health education in the Faculty of Education. These physical education students see a greater need for face-to-face learning content, considering its normal routine that heavily involve being physically present in the class, field, or other relevant premises. So I can say that physical education could be important or crucial for continue their lesson. So this is a behavioral study that intends to study the perception of physical health education students towards the blended learning. Hence, the students of physical health education in semester 2 until semester 8 are the best fit as they have been undergoing the process of blended learning. That's why I choose this as my participants. This research also has been carried online for one semester from September 2020 to February 2021. Okay, this research employed a semi-structured interview method where participants were able to implement their freedom to express their point of view. The semi-structured questions were constructed based on a prominent study uh, with a title on implementing blended learning at a developing university, obstacle in the way. The quantitative research was obtained by distributing a questionnaire to the respective respondents. The pattern of how questions are formulated is based on a prominent study on evaluating student satisfaction with blended learning in a gender-segregated environment, which used 21 items adopted from student satisfaction survey from which is SSSF. Okay, this research has been carried out from September 2020 to February 2021, as I mentioned before. So here are the research procedure. This particular period was chosen as it covered one semester in an academic year. This section described the process involved in identifying and developing a topic for research investigation. The steps in developing a topic for research naturally become easier with experience in which at the beginning, researchers need to put emphasis on material already available regarding engagement and satisfaction towards blended learning during online distance learning. So as a researcher, I need to read more on the engagement and satisfaction and then make it useful in this pandemic situation. So then the researcher develops suitable method of analysis and then proceed through data analysis and interpretation to come up with a clear and concise presentation of findings. And finally, we provide discussion and recommendations. Okay, how the researchers collected the data. As the study aspired to delve deeper on the perception of physical health education students towards blended learning using Google Classroom, the researchers used mixed method approach and there were two types of data analysis. Firstly, individual interview was the best way to discover one's perception and views on a certain topic. This was due to the fact that the researcher was allowed to ask questions when doubts or peculiarity arise. Meanwhile, the second part of the analysis identified the level of interaction between lecturer and student and strategies to encourage students in Google Classroom by using a set of questionnaires. Then the data collected from the questionnaire was then analyzed in detail. The collected data converted into mean, percentage, and standard deviation. We did inferential analysis to compare means between male and female students. For the quantitative data, we use SPSS to convert the data and come up with findings and interpretations. Okay, now we are talking about the result, the qualitative result. The analysis of qualitative data from semi-structured interview led to development of several categories, out of which four themes emerged. These themes included a definition of blended learning, connection, communication, and collaboration, expectation from students, and implementation of Google Classroom. I can say that most of the physical education students describe blended learning as face-to-face interaction by integrating technology. Then they also put emphasis on the communication among lecturers, students, and students could give impact on the learning process. So I can say that the communication are so crucial in the blended learning processes. So the students also put expectation that teachers who conduct online learning need to have updated and in-depth knowledge about the course content because the teachers itself need to know what to present during the blended learning. And last but not least, the student wish the implementation of Google Classroom could be fun and enjoyable so they can have the feel of being in physical class, not just in blended learning situation. Okay, as for the second research question, this study was looking at finding the frequency of interaction between lecturers and physical and health education students through blended learning. The table shows indicated item for frequency of interaction. It portrayed an overview of the instructor make the student feel that they were a true member of the class with mean 3.73. On moderate scale, students were satisfied with their participation in the class with mean 3.64. They were satisfied with the quality of interaction between all involved parties, which are about the interaction between the lecturers and students. The list rating given by the students were to the item number 1, in which blended learning session kids that were with alert and focus with mean 3.42. As we can as we can see or as we can know that online learning can make students distract. They are not fully focused, I think. So this slide is the result from the third research question. This table provided useful descriptive statistics for the two groups that researchers compared, including the mean and standard deviation. The group comparison, including the sample size of 92 respondents, there were 37 male students and 55 female students in physical and health education. To test the hypothesis that male and female were associated with statistically significant difference in satisfaction towards Google Classroom, an independent sample test was performed. Since the probability p-value is 0.005 for f value in the table shown is less than 0.05, reject the null hypothesis of equal variances. Okay, therefore the SPSS output in the row of equal variance does not assume should be used. According to the independent sample test by the SPSS output shows that its probability p-value is 0.328. Since the probability value is greater than alpha 0.05, we reject the null hypothesis. Thus, there is no significant difference in satisfaction towards Google Classroom between male and female and physical and health education students. Okay, as for the conclusion, the study attempted to examine the perception of physical education students using blended learning during online distance learning. As a result, the following conclusions were drawn. This project highlighted the uncovered key research trend where the result portrayed students perceived blended learning during online distance learning was successful to their course-related tasks. For the significant discovery, we got a new understanding of the problem. Participants of the study showed a positive attitude towards integrating Google Classroom in blended learning. Google Classroom adaptability among physical education students' perspective of male and female seems not having any significant impact. As for the interpretation of findings or summary of the findings, physical education students perceive Google Classroom application positively, and it has been proven that they were adapting new norms very well during this pandemic. Students basically found that blended learning is effective to promote collaborative learning, organize assignment, assign, and reduce problems. Last but not least, the contribution of the study, or we can say the suggestion for future research. People can make a similar study. A similar study can be conducted in other education sectors such as primary or secondary school to compare of the findings that are consistent with the study. The current study based on analysis of interview from students, it will be fascinating to consider the perception of educators, instructors, lecturers, and compare those with the students' perception. A comparative study can also be conducted by comparing the satisfaction and engagement of Google Classroom with other educational classroom, not just Google Classroom. We can use any other educational platform. So, to sum up my presentation today, I would like to say online distance learning might see as a benefit to students in terms of education, of course. I should say one last speech here, which is online distance learning or blended learning has become as one of the best measures today to continue teaching and learning during this pandemic. And I feel like that is exactly one of those crucial elements where we can use this kind of method. So, with that, I am going to end my presentation and leave you. Thank you very much for your attention. Thank you.